Send on the link. What's up? What's up? It's Danny Rap Podcast with Triborough. My special guest today is Darrell D. And Christian, what's good? Salute. We just this is just like a live stream where we talk about, how we got into comics. We might mention some hip hop because we from the hip hop community as well. We both done live streams with the homie Nostalgic. Shout out to him and the whole hip hop Jedi's, group chat. And it's something I've been wanting to do on this channel for like a couple years, and I didn't really know if I how I was gonna do it. And once I connected with homies like Darrell and other hip hop heads that love comics, I said, you know what, now's the time to do it. And it's something I want to do on a regular. I want to like have like maybe a weekly or monthly discussion, just covering like different comic book storylines and different arcs of either Marvel or DC or Image Comics, whoever. And you know I'm glad for you to be here. um Please tell us like how you got into comics.
For me, it was like pretty much like everybody else. I'm a young kid, and at some point, we were out in public, with my parents or whatever, and I saw them, and the story goes on from there.
Right.
But I can remember as far back as about 4 years old, when I caught that comic bug, and it was on from there.
Yeah. For me too, like I was like in middle school when I started like reading comics. Like it started with like the turtles when the Ninja Turtles came out and they had their toy line in like 87, 88. Cartoon was out, it blew up. They had their comics. The movie comes out in 1990. So it started with that, and even with remember the TV show Alf?
Yeah, yeah.
I had the Alf comic. I had one Alf comic that I saw randomly at a newsstand that I end up getting. And I have a cousin that her father used to he knew somebody at Marvel. Oh, he was dating somebody at Marvel, and he ended up getting us like a big box of Marvel comics. And it was, they had Spider Ham was in that, and X-Men, and you know um it was great. So that's really how I started in the comics, and then it just took off from there, like reading different comics. And I kind of stopped for like a long time, and especially when we started getting the movies in the theater. And they were actually taking different storylines from the comics and characters. But I started getting into it more like maybe the last, I want to say, over the pandemic. And it's just been great. Like I have like a new found love for comics again. Me and my homeboy, we always go to like Midtown Comics, in Manhattan. And Forbidden Planet, that's also in Manhattan. And it's been great. And just reading like different comics now with there's so many different ones now. They got like movie comics. I saw a movie comic for the Fog, actually. The John Carpenter film The Fog. I saw a movie that was like a new comic for that.
Yeah.
And they have one for Stranger Things. I saw that, and I love Stranger Things. It's like my favorite Netflix show. They have a comic for that. So I've been like, this is why I wanted to do it. Like now, like I have a love for comics again. And I'm like, well, how come nobody, like, at least from the hip hop community, is like really talking about comics? Because I know a lot of hip hop heads that love comics. They might have a collection, but they're not even going live with it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I just want to do something different. So
No
you
doubt.
know,
My story is pretty similar to what you just said. As a kid, it was all about the art. I didn't know none of these stories were about,
Right.
you know what I mean? You knew Superman, you knew Batman, you knew Spider-Man, you know, and if you were lucky, then you knew uh, some of the other titles out there, you know, X-Men and
Right.
Captain America, stuff like that. But as I moved on and got into like elementary school, or well, elementary middle school,
Right.
when actually reading the comic books now,
Mhm.
that's when it really got interesting. And then it was like Iron Man and Daredevil and Hulk, and I was mostly a Marvel guy.
Right.
But back in those days, I would I would read anything. I would collect any comic book I could get my hands on, like
Yeah.
anything. You know, I had to have it. And I think I think the most comic books I had in middle school was like 215.
Oh
That's
wow.
like the biggest that my collection got
Right.
back then. And I could tell you where I got every book. I could tell you what happened from cover to cover in that book, every story. So, like I said, because I was trying to get my hands on anything, because it wasn't like I had all this money just to go out, you know what I'm saying, and get, you know, whatever I want. When I did, I stuck to the titles
Right.
that I was into: the Daredevil, Iron Man, Avengers, you know, those just maybe 5 or 6 titles. But it wasn't uncommon to have like Richie Rich or Archie or any of those books, you know, like that in my collection, because I wasn't turning anything down,
Right.
you know, back in those days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Like
then
I've had comics given to me, you know, that I didn't even know what comics. I remember the Wayans brothers had a comic book line, you know, and I had gotten that like in 2009, and I had no idea they had a comic book line because there wasn't I didn't see no promotion for it. You know, I
was
would go to the
that
comic.
like he was like some kind of like pimp player dude?
Yeah, they had like afros. It was
Yeah,
like very 70s. Yeah.
I got
You
that
have that?
run.
Okay. Yeah,
Oh
because
yeah, yeah.
I mean I've never seen it in the comic book stores over here, so I'm like I didn't even know they had a line.
Yeah, I forgot how I discovered that book. Knowing me, I probably was just somewhere digging and came across it, or I
Right.
saw it on the shelf, because I do believe I started buying that book as soon as it came out, and I
Wow.
think there's only a handful of copies.
Yeah, and that's very rare. I don't know anybody that had that one. You know, and you know, like I said, like I've seen a lot of like more graphic novels and comics about movies. You know, I seen one for Jeepers Creepers a couple years
Oh
ago.
wow!
So they have a comic book line for that. You know, there's I know back in the late '80s, early '90s, there was one for Nightmare on Elm Street, and they kind of they expanded on the Dream Warriors story, and in the movie, like you know, the characters in part four they got killed off by Freddy, but in the comic book they lived, like they survived or whatever, and so they expanded on that storyline in that movie franchise. And so I've seen that like over the years, like there's more comic books about movies, and um I think it's great. And even like with hip hop, like I remember there was at one point when KRS One had his own comic in Onyx.
Wow! I never
Yeah,
seen that.
this was I want to say it was like 94, 95, and they were trying something different, and they had like different hip hop artists with their own comic book. You know,
Oh
even
wow!
Prince had one for the Love Symbol album, and I forgot the name of the comic book for him, but he even had a comic book line or whatever. And I think it was just great to see, like, some of our hip hop legends, have their own comic book.
There was that title, that series, Rock and Roll Comics,
Yeah,
and they had a lot of those. Like I had the one with I think it was Two Live Crew and NWA on
yeah.
one, and um, yeah, they did a lot of. Oh, the Ice T one, I got that one.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I would love to see more comics for like our hip hop legends, like maybe one for Nas or Rakim, But like what is like your favorite storyline in any comic book?
Um, as far as I just remember when I started reading Daredevil
Hmm.
back in the '80s, and it was soon after Frank Miller started drawing and writing that book. And I later on found out that Frank Miller was like 19 or 20 during that time.
Right.
So he was this fresh, young artist and writer. Nobody was touching his art. And what really threw me back then is, his book was based in New York City,
Hmm.
and it was real grimy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The grimiest, areas in New York City, and that's how I learned about a lot of these New York neighborhoods. Like um, that's the first time, like when I found out about what brownstones were,
Right. Yes.
in Brooklyn, because that's where
Hmm.
Matt Murdock lived, and
Right.
what is it called, Devil's Kitchen,
Yeah. Hell's
and
Kitchen.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just all these different neighborhoods around New York,
Hmm.
and it just made it. It wasn't. It was more like a drama, than a comic book, because
Right.
the story seemed so real. Like there was this one issue where it was all about drugs, and the criminals, peddling drugs to kids in
Yeah.
schools, and this one kid was like blown out of his mind on angel dust or something, and
Right.
Daredevil had to like throw him through a window, and this was like a kid, like a 16-year-old,
Hmm.
and I'm like this kid myself, and I'm like, yo, this he threw this dude through a window. That's wow. You know what I'm saying? So it just seemed like it was more adult oriented stories. And here
Right.
I am, this little kid who's, reading this stuff that I probably shouldn't be reading. My parents didn't have no idea what I was reading, but that for the longest time was the my favorite storyline, until many many years later.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like I grew up like with the storylines like for the Civil War storyline, Marvel, and then to see that being played out on screen in the Captain America film, and having Black Panther for the first time as an on-screen character was great. And to me that's still been my favorite Captain America film, because
Oh
they
wow.
not only did they have a Black Panther, they also had Spider-Man in that one. And,
Okay.
and I felt like they should have expanded more on that storyline, except for just one film. But that was that whole arc was great. The differences with Tony, Tony was on one side, and Steve was on another, and that was a great story arc. And even for Batman has a lot of great stories. The Killing Joke was iconic. I remember when the animated movie came out. I saw that too. That was great. And they've had so many. I know they doing a lot more stuff for Green Lantern, because they're getting ready to do a Green Lantern series that's coming out. And those are like the stories that I grew up on. And Flashpoint with Flash. I actually have the book right here. This is what I was telling you about. Like I actually bought this because there was another podcast that they had like I told you this on the phone, like they were doing their own DC like podcast, but like they stopped it because it was like people was complaining that it was too early in the morning to do it. And
Right.
but I actually bought the comic because like I was a part of that panel and talking about the story with Barry, and him going back in time trying to save his mom, messes up the timeline, and then he comes across Batman and other heroes, and which is what happened in the Flash movie anyway. They took from that comic book. And I thought those are like some of the best stories that are like really timeless. you know um do you think for the movies that they need to like fall back on doing so many comic book films, or is it a good thing for the comic book community?
At first, I thought it was good. Um, I haven't seen most of these comic book movies because a lot of the early movies that came out, I just didn't like them. I'm
Right,
a, I'm a stickler for, sticking to the story, sticking to the original origin, sticking to the original costumes and outfits and whatnot.
right,
And I'm not sure. I mean, they've always done comic book movies, but it just seemed like, after Blade, that's just when they just took off and never really stopped. And
right.
shockingly, I didn't even know Blade was a comic book movie or a comic book character because I've
Yeah,
never, in all my years before that, I never came across a comic book with Blade in it.
right.
So that was a nice surprise, and that movie, I thought that movie was fantastic. So by the time Spider Man came out, I thought that was cool, and they stuck to the story for the most part, not
Right.
everything, but it was pretty close and you know uh, watcher friendly, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, and then I started seeing stuff like Batman and Iron Man, and actually Iron Man might have been before Spider Man. I don't recall. And what was the other one? Hulk, and I just wasn't really pleased with those movies. I think I might have saw one of the X-Men movie,
Mhm.
which it was all right. I did like the Black Panther
Yeah,
movie.
that was good.
I thought that was great. At the same time, I didn't follow Black Panther
Right.
back in the day when it was out, so I wasn't familiar with the origin or the inside of that story.
Mhm.
So I didn't really have any expectations on the
Right.
movie, So I did enjoy that, but I would say outside of those movies I mentioned, there might be a few more in there, but I thought Sin City was incredible.
Yes. We
Um,
talked about that. We got to do a whole review for that.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But for the most part, I just I think Hollywood got a hold of these comic book movies
Hmm.
and just went with it, and it's sort of these comic book movies are made for the public. They're not really made for, um, in my opinion, they're not made for hardcore comic collectors like myself or
Right.
people who grew up in that era and are
Right.
looking for you know those stories, or at least those storylines.
Hmm.
But when Hollywood uh, just creates a action movie, if you will, and
Hmm.
then they implement one of our favorite superheroes in there, I'm
Right.
not really feeling that. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I think not for every character. I think for certain characters, it's a good thing to make them have a cameo, especially like a Black Panther being in Civil War. Like it got people excited to see his own movie because we never saw him on screen before. And we always heard, oh, like he's coming, but and I think he stole the show, him and Spider Man in that film. So by the time his movie came out, people was excited. They were rushing to the theater to see that. And I think that works for certain characters, not for everybody. Now they do it all the time where it's become boring now. You know what I'm saying? But I think like for certain characters that was needed. You know, and I've seen like most of them I've seen at the theater, like even the bad ones. I remember going to see Iron Man 2. That was terrible. I was halfway sleeping at the theater
I agree.
watching that. Um what's another bad the Hulk one with what was that? Edward Norton, I think that was.
Yeah, yeah,
No, the first one with Eric Banner. That one I went to see and I fell
yeah,
asleep with still through that one.
yeah.
That was bad. So I've been to the good ones, the End Game, Avengers End Game, that was great. The bad ones like Hulk. I just feel like this, now it's starting to get really like mundane, and it's like we're just going through the motions now. It's like everything they doing for movies is a comic book, film, or it's a TV series. Like some of them are good. I've been watching the Penguin. That's a good one. I enjoyed it. I think Colin Farrell is a phenomenal actor. He don't even look like himself. He looked like the Penguin when you see him. And but like there's others, like a lot of the Marvel stuff, especially the ones that came out during the pandemic. Like Loki. I've never been a big Loki fan, so I didn't watch that series. And the one they got now for Agatha, haven't even watched it. And I don't feel like every character in a comic book needs their own story to be told. Unless it's like a popular one like Spider-Man or Wolverine. Even like some of the fan favorites, a lot of fans love. Namor. He was in the sequel for Black Panther. And yeah, I think for certain ones, not I don't think everybody needs their own TV series or movie. Mike was good. Yeah.
I will say that, like, when it comes to the Marvel stuff, everything up until like all of the books up until like 1986, I was for the most part very familiar with, for the most part.
Right.
So a lot of these movies that are coming out now are based on books and storylines that happened after 1986,
Right.
which is pretty much when I kind of walked away from collecting. And so I can't relate to a lot of these new storylines because I don't know them.
Right.
And because I don't know them, I really don't have any interest in, you know what I'm saying, and watching this stuff, because it'll be like watching a foreign movie.
Right.
I'm thinking they're gonna go in one direction, they go in the other direction, because
Mhm.
I'm stuck in the past, so to speak. You know what I mean? Um, but so I can't really comment on if I like them or if I hate them, because I haven't even seen them.
Right.
I wouldn't even know
And,
what I would be watching as far as the
and what
show.
what I what I hate, especially now with DC, it's like there was a time when it's one thing if you're rebooting their franchises, which I hate. I hate them rebooting Superman and Batman. There's no need for that. But they've been doing that for decades now. But now they're starting to do that with the comic book line, like the New 52. That was a great run, and for whatever reason, they decided, oh well, we got to scrap that and start all over. When they had started all over with the New 52, so it's like as a comic book reader, and if you're like you're an OG collector, and if you go into a comic book store now and you see, oh well, the stories have changed for Superman and Batman and the whole Justice League, like how does that make you feel, knowing that you're accustomed to knowing how the Justice League was, and now that they totally changed everything, I feel like it's like a waste of time to even buy anything new.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you keep up with that stuff and you following those lines, that could be great. But I'll never forget, a couple years ago, I'm in Michigan visiting family. I go into this comic book store, and
Right.
they got all the new comics, and it was like, no lie, it was like 10 different Incredible Hulk books, 10 different books, 10 different storylines.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And if you
Right.
look at a lot of like the classic books that we had from back in the day, a lot of them got multiple storylines,
Right.
and if not multiple current storylines, they all had these limited runs that just
Right.
go off in all of these other directions. On one hand, I think it's cool if they're actually successful and people are buying these books.
Mhm.
I'm not buying all of these books, but if people are buying them and they dig them, that's fantastic. On the other hand, I'm wondering, are they just trying to squeeze every little story that they can think of with these different characters?
Right.
Thus, are they trying to squeeze every nickel out of collectors, trying to sell them all of these titles? It's kind of confusing. So I'm definitely like uh, um, comfortable in my little shell,
Right.
if you will, of books that I follow. And as far as like the hero stuff, I'll stick with from 86 on back. You
Right.
know, from the 60s to the 80s. I'll stick with that era.
Yeah, because it's like going into a comic book store now. It's like I literally have to write down, titles that I'm looking for, because
Me
when it, when
too.
it when it comes to DC, especially them, it's like I don't know where they're going with these stories. Like they're rebooting the line, and then to go to run at the same time with the movies, and I'm just confused at this point with what they're doing. So I have to like literally write down a title that I'm looking for, and sometimes I find it, sometimes it might be already sold out, and that's just how I go about it now. Before it was easier, but now because of these Hollywood films, you don't really know where to start.
Yeah, no doubt. You mentioned DC, and you just reminded me when I was growing up. Um, my favorite comic book from when I was a kid
Mhm.
definitely was Black Lightning.
Oh
And
yeah.
and this is a perfect example of what I was just mentioning. Like I have that entire Black Lightning run.
Mhm.
I mean, just to see a comic book character who looked like me, and he's got lightning all over all over his
Right.
outfit.
Mhm.
That was just like super cool, you know. Um, but then fast forward to now, and now there have been several, Black Lightning runs, none of which that's ever been remotely interesting to me,
Right.
just because it's not that original Black Lightning. And then I think there's a TV show or something like
Yeah,
that.
they canceled it. That's
Okay,
another thing. Like again, like DC, they had like a great run of TV shows on CW. They canceled everything, so that's been going.
yeah, yeah,
The
it's crazy.
the one show that they kept, which is in the final season, is Superman and Lois, and they're doing the whole death of Superman, by Doomsday. They're doing that storyline right now for the final season.
I did watch the Jessica Jones.
Yeah,
I
that
think
was good.
like the first and second season. I never knew really who she was.
Right.
I thoroughly enjoyed the show because it was like it seemed very realistic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, I started the Daredevil run, and at first it seemed like it kind of had me,
Hmm.
but then it did some really unrealistic. There were some unrealistic twists that would have never ever happened in the comic book.
Right.
For instance, what was Daredevil's friend, the reporter, the newspaper reporter?
Um,
I cannot
I
think
forgot
of
his name.
his name, but
Uh, that's the one he had the law firm with.
no, that's Foggy, his partner, his
Um,
business partner. This was the guy who was a newspaper reporter,
mhm.
and he knew that Daredevil was Matt Murdock. And the thing is, he could never write about that story
Right.
because of their relationship. At the same time, he's like trying to get on. So the one story that would blow him up is the
Hmm.
one story he can't print.
Right.
So that's like a main theme in the Daredevil run. He's like a regular character.
Right.
But on the TV show, they kill him in the first season, which is ridiculous. That's like,
I don't even remember that. I remember him.
yeah, that's like killing off Jimmy Olsen in the Superman,
Yeah.
show, or
Yeah.
he's like that much of a character in there. And then also in the first season, Foggy, his business partner at the law firm, finds out his identity,
Right.
and so now he's like always worried about him because he knows he's out here fighting crime and he ain't with
Hmm.
none of that stuff. So now Daredevil has this nag that's nagging him and talking to him about always bothering him. That would have never happened in the comic book.
Right.
So I I believe I finished that first season and then I put it down. I was
You
like, I
just
don't need
stop.
to watch any more of this because it's like really, really disappointing,
Right.
you know. And I thought like Luke Cage, I thought that was all right.
Hmm.
It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like all of that. I
Right.
love the fact that it was based in Harlem.
Yeah.
I have the entire Luke Cage run, and
Wow.
I'm talking about the OG run.
OG.
Yeah, the
Wow.
entire Luke Cage run, the entire Iron Fist run, and the entire Power Man and Iron Fist run.
Right.
So
And then
that's
they
like one
like
of my favorite runs of all time.
then they end up bringing on Rosario Dawson, and she was like the love interest for like all of them. Like she was on Daredevil. She was with him. Luke Cage. I would think not Iron Fist, but he had his own love interest. But that whole dynamic was kind of weird. I'm like, well, she has a thing for both Daredevil and Luke Cage, and they both in the same crew. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So I didn't understand where they were going with that.
yeah, and then that chick that he was fighting,
Hmm.
she leaves him her nightclub when she dies,
Right,
and then Luke Cage becomes like one of the bad people with this club. Like this
right,
club just changed his whole mindset, and that would have never happened, in the comic book.
yeah,
And I think it was a terrible ending to what was a pretty decent, show.
right. I agree. And it lasted 4 years, and I know they're gonna reboot it now on Disney next year. They're bringing all of them back now, so hopefully it'll be good, like the Netflix series. I don't know what how they're gonna do the violent stuff on Disney, but hopefully it's good.
Yeah,
You know,
we'll see. We'll see. I might pick it back up again. Like I said, it wasn't bad,
Mhm.
not by a long shot, but I love Harlem, so
Yeah.
of course, I'm gonna watch that show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I remember when the Luke Cage show came out, like everybody was talking about the music. They had like each episode was named after a gangster record. I think that was just so dope by Marvel to just incorporate hip hop in the shows like that.
yeah. I think that was the second season,
Yeah,
and I want to say the first season was it Pete Rock and CL Smooth?
yeah, I believe so. Cause they actually were playing the songs in the episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
yeah, I enjoyed that. And yeah, like that was great. That was great. I know he's coming back at some point. Luke Cage and the Punisher, they bringing him back. The only one I'm not sure about is Iron Fist. 'Cause I know they said if they do bring back Iron Fist, it's gonna be with a different actor.
Okay.
But everybody else to sign on. Jessica Jones is coming back, and Mike Colter is Luke Cage is coming back. They got Daredevil that's gonna come out first, so I'm excited to see it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna mess with them for
Yeah,
see how long I can. I'm not really going. I'm not making a big deal about it, but we'll see what happens, man.
yeah. Hopefully it's good. Is there any comic book that you never got a chance to get?
Uh, that I never got a chance to
Yeah.
get. I tell you what.
Hmm.
Right around what was it? I'd say right around 2008.
Hmm.
I decided I'm gonna start going for complete runs of my some of my favorite books,
Right.
books that were out that I was reading back in the 80s. So first on the list was of course Daredevil, and I have that whole entire Daredevil run
Right.
from issue 1 all the way up until like 260, 265. Somewhere in there is when I really
Hmm.
stopped reading the book, which is right around 1986.
Right.
Then I got the whole Submariner run, the whole Marvel Fanfare run, the whole Power Man and Iron Fist run. Um, and there was a few more in there. And I was working on the the Iron Man run
Hmm.
and the Hulk run. And the last run that I was gonna go for was gonna be Spider Man, because of course that was the most,
Yeah.
hardest to get, most
Right.
expensive out of what I was looking for. And before I could get to it is when grading comic books and these comic book movies
Mhm.
started coming out real heavy, and it just drove the prices up to all of these, old books.
Right.
And so back in the day, if I would have got started on Spider-Man, and I have a lot of Spider-Man, but we're
Mhm.
talking about the entire run.
Yeah.
If I would have started on there back then, the average book back then would have cost me 25, $30.
Right.
Um, Now those exact same books are anywhere from 150 to $400. The exact same books, and I'm talking about anywhere from like issue 50, between issue 50 and 100.
Right.
Back then were around $25 a piece, and now I'm not gonna spend that kind of money on there. And then like 1 through 50, forget about it. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
So I have some. I have a lot of Spider-Man. I have
Mhm.
some old stuff. I have some later stuff. But as far as having that entire run, that's never gonna happen. So I would say those are some books that I'll probably never have.
Man. Yeah, I mean, there's like, a lot, even like the recent stuff, like the Turtles, the Last Ronin storyline with the Last Surviving Turtle, and that, like, as soon as that came out, it was sold out. Everybody bought that. Like, I couldn't find it at no comic book store. You
Really?
know, I know they said something about making a possible film out of that storyline. A lot of
Yeah.
fans seem to love it, and it's brought back. It's re-energized that whole franchise of the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of different one. The Death of Superman, I remember when that came out, that was actually on the news too. They had like a news piece about it, and it sold out in minutes. Never get it. But I mean, I think that, like, again, I think, like, for the diehard comic book fans, that's a gem that you must have in your collection. You know, just, I mean,
The
even if you don't
Superman
read it,
book.
yeah, like the Death of Superman, like, even if you don't read it, but you just have it there,
Is
for
that the
forever.
one where there's like a stake in the ground and his like cape is on it, but it's all
Yes,
ripped up?
yes.
Okay,
And then,
okay.
like, when he came back, like, you remember he had like the all blacks, suit, the long hair, the beard, and then that was the thing. I think he came back when he came back with the suit. There was no cape. It's like it was weird to see Superman without no cape.
Wow. Yeah,
You
that
know,
sound weird.
you know what I'm saying. So that's to see that is being played out now on Superman and Lois is dope to see. Hopefully they do it right though. But so far they've done it right. He got killed off by Doomsday. Everybody's mourning in Smallville. But I feel like for the series finale, he's gonna come back. He'll come back with the all black suit and the long hair and beard or whatever. Well, at least that's how I have it in my mind. I don't know if that's gonna play out. I mean, we thought that was gonna happen in Justice League,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen like that. So
Let me ask you this. You
uh,
mentioned they might be doing this other Turtles movie.
mhm,
I've never been into the Turtles.
right.
I want you to tell me what you feel like the appeal of the Turtles are, because they always seem kind of corny to me, like more like little kid stuff.
Right.
And I will admit, by the time they really started coming out,
Mhm,
I had like walked away from comics, and I was like in the girls and rap music by that
right.
time. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm,
but they're so huge, and
yeah.
the other reason why I asked too is, I used to be a heavy eBay seller back in the day, and
Okay.
whenever I would find like vintage Ninja Turtle stuff,
Mhm,
it would just sell for
it's a
all
lot.
kinds of crazy money, and I
Yeah.
could never figure out why. So, what is this whole appeal of the Ninja Turtles?
Well, for me, like in '87, when they had the animated show, back then it would come on channel. Well, it was channel 11 back then. It's now CW, but they had the toy line. So like most '80s cartoons had the classic toy lines to go with them: GI Joe, Transformers, He Man. So they had the toy line. I had the whole collection. So while I have the whole toy collection, and I'm watching, the animated show. That was like one of my favorite cartoons growing up. And I think the appeal is, just the story of a talking rat living in the sewers of New York City, named Splinter, and he knows karate, and he comes across these little baby turtles, and they got mutated from this mysterious ooze, and he taught, he took them in, and he fed them, and he taught them karate, and gave them Italian names from different designers: Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, Raphael. And the way that they looked, they had like the colored face mask, and they have their own personality. Leonardo was like the leader of the turtles, and Raphael is like the rebellious one. Michelangelo is the gnarly dude. He loves pizza. He can skateboard. Donatello's the one that fixed things around the layer for them. I think so. For that, I think that was the appeal. And then when the movie comes out, like everybody went to see that. I saw that from when I was little, when that came out. Then I ended up getting it on VHS. So it was huge. And then it's become a thing in pop culture. And people remember the part two with the turtles, and Vanilla Ice was in that. He had the rap song in that movie. You know, the video games that I had the video game for Nintendo back in the day. That was a big seller. They're still doing video games for them, and I think that's what it is. I think like it's their pop culture icons, and I feel like at one point, maybe in the 2000s, I would say it was kind of like dead for them, but they've come back now, with like new games, and then having the Last Ronin story, and I think they're great. I think it's a timeless, story of coming of age story for them, and then it just carried over into pop culture. So I think that's the appeal that people love. It's almost like the Power Rangers too. Like there's some people that don't like the Power Rangers, but you see, like the Power Rangers was huge overseas, and then when it came to America, they got huge over here.
Okay. So outside of the movies and the comic books, have you gotten into collecting any of the pop culture type stuff
Oh
from the
yeah,
turtles?
you mean like the like collectibles, or just like the
Yeah,
comic books?
the collectibles.
Oh yeah, I got I showed this last night actually on my homeboy's live stream. Like we do like from time to time, like a live stream of like new pickups that we get for like the last couple months.
Yeah.
So I've gotten like some turtle figures and stuff.
Well,
You know.
okay. Okay. Hold on. Give me like 5 seconds. I want to grab something for you.
Okay, cool,
All right.
cool.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I picked this up from a buddy of mine. I don't know, maybe a couple years ago.
Uh,
He said he couldn't find no information on it, and I just took it.
right.
But these are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hit movie cards, deluxe movie edition. Like, have you ever seen this?
I used to have the movie cards too.
Do you have these?
Wow, that's the whole set. I remember those. I had a pack of those like back in the day. It was like one pack, and it had like different clips from the movie. Yeah, I remember those. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's what these are, like different clips from the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I this thing has been sitting on my shelf for like the last 2 years. I'm gonna send these to you,
Oh, that's dope. Thank you.
and then and
Appreciate that.
then now you got them.
Wow. So you're not a fan of the turtles at all?
Well, one of my favorite artists of all times is Richard Corbin.
Okay.
and he did a lot of underground comics.
Right.
For those who know, I won't get into that whole backstory right now, but he was into underground comics, basically comic books that were separate from the comic code and the law and all of that.
Right.
Richard Crumb and Von Bodie and a lot of those kind of guys did books. They were like basically what they're called underground. Like you couldn't
Right.
buy them in comic book stores. You could buy them like in head shops or like adult stores, and they kept them under the counter, this, that, and the other thing. And they a lot of more adult oriented themes were those books where they talked about a lot of like horror or like murder. What do you call it? Science
Yeah.
fiction, um, the war, drugs, stuff
Right.
like that. They basically could do what they wanted to.
Mm.
Anyway, Richard Corbin ended up doing the art in 4 different books for the Ninja Turtles. So I
Right.
have 4 Ninja Turtle comic books featuring the art of Richard Corbin, and that's
Wow.
like kind of my only appeal to the turtles.
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
he
I mean.
made them, he drew them real dope the way he did them.
Yeah.
He did them right.
Yeah. Like I said, like they become a pop culture, thing over the decades, and I think they got a resurgence now. There's a lot of other toy lines and cartoons that they got a resurgence now. GI Joe and Transformers. Voltron. I just seen that they doing a Voltron live action film. So
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Like the appeal can cross over to all different generations.
Okay. Yeah, that
You know.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me show you. Like I got one right here actually. I have a this is a Leonardo pop figure. You can see that here. Even
Okay.
though he got the red band on him, this is really supposed to be Raphael, but it's a special edition Leonardo.
Okay.
They took it straight from like the comic books with the black and white, because the comics were like black and white.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah. So I have like different like collectibles for like different um pop culture toy lines and stuff.
Yeah.
Rocky. I
My
showed a rock.
I got a homeboy in
Mhm,
Chicago, and he turned me on to this chick, this sister actually,
mhm.
who's got this YouTube channel, and she's like a huge Turtles fan,
Okay.
and she's got a humongous like toy and action figure Turtles collection.
Yeah.
It's like bananas. I'll have to find that and send it to you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple of them that follow me too. The TMNT collector, he follows me. He's a huge. His whole like house is like all turtle stuff. It's crazy.
Wow.
I know a couple of his peoples follow me also. So it's like a whole Ninja Turtle community out
Wow, that's
there.
crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. They always doing giveaways, and so a lot of the stuff I've gotten is from their giveaways. Like they give away like brand new, sealed copies of comic books and different figures and stuff. So a lot of that stuff I got from them.
Yeah, I got a homeboy here in Phoenix, and he he owns a toy store. It's
Yeah.
called Polar Bears Pop Culture Shop. His name is Jason, and he's got a whole Ninja Turtle section in his store
Wow.
where it's just all Ninja Turtle stuff. It's
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah. It's there's a fan base for it. No matter what up toy line it is or comic book, there's a fan base for them.
It seems to me like that those movies, and I haven't seen any of them, but if they
Uh,
were more adult themed, like more mature, it
right.
seemed like that would be like crazy. Because they already look crazy. And like you said, a talking rat. I mean, imagine if it was like, you know what I'm saying? Like a straight
Yeah.
up like rated R
Right.
Ninja
I
Turtle
mean, I
movie.
don't know. I know like when they rebooted, because they actually rebooted the movies when they did like it was like a CGI animated, and it was more darker, but it wasn't like adult. Like there was adults that liked it, but it wasn't like adult themes in that one.
Right.
It was more like, you had Shredder's daughter was like trying to like avenge her father, and she wanted revenge on the turtles or whatever. But that was actually good, but it wasn't like I don't think they would do anything too crazy with that. I mean, because so many people grew up with that, with the cartoon and the toy line. I don't know if they would do anything crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I mean, it's possible.
Right. Nah, it was just a thought.
That could work though. I mean, I can see it. I don't know if they will actually have the guts to do it though. That's the thing.
I mean, okay, so like probably my favorite movie of all time is Sin City, right?
Yes.
Imagine if they filmed a Ninja Turtle movie the way Sin City
Yeah.
was.
I
You know
can
what I'm
see it like
saying?
like real
Like
gritty, real New York,
real
old New
gritty and
York.
grimy. Exactly.
Yes, I
Exactly.
can see that. That's probably what, there's some people that want that. You know what I'm saying? Because remember the comic started off black and white, and then they switched the color, after they got huge in the 80s and 90s. But um I could see that though. Right? You know what I'm saying? But Sin City was just such a great story. It's like an anthology of like different characters, and they had their own story to tell. And it reminded me of New York City, just the whole setting of that story.
Yeah, no.
Sam said that would be dope for, yeah, R-rated, a Ninja Turtles movie. I agree.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
no doubt. Yeah, I was just wondering about that because it's like the turtle's been on fire for a
Yeah,
minute. I
yeah.
remember I was at this thrift store. This was years ago, and I
Hmm.
found two sets of there were these Ninja Turtle cereal bowls. I
Hmm.
don't know if you ever seen them,
I never seen those. No.
but I think I paid like a couple of bucks for each set or whatever,
Hmm.
and I put them on eBay, and dude, they just went crazy.
Wow.
And that's when I first like, man, what's up with these turtles? Like, who in their right mind would spend that kind of money, But apparently
So
they
like
into that.
this is the when they won Nickelodeon,
Hmm.
like during the 2000s, they had that, this is like some of the figures. They had like a samurai, Michelangelo, and spaceman Donatello.
Okay.
So this is like from the Nickelodeon line or whatever. So like this is something that I won. This was like a giveaway from like one of the those turtle pages, and I won a lot of stuff over the years. So and it's that's actually like a Nickelodeon like show, because it was the turtles that I actually watched, because I wasn't watching Nickelodeon stuff like past 88, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's great to have like collectibles like that. There's a lot of dope hip hop heads that we listen to. Like Apathy is a he collects figures and all that. So
Oh, word.
I remember seeing that live stream when he was on Nostalgic's platform, and he was showing some of his toy line and all that. So that was
I think you froze up a little. I don't know if you can hear me, but your screen just froze up. Oh,
I
okay,
was
there you
saying,
go.
even with Jessica Jones, like the issue with when that was being brought to Netflix, they kept saying that a lot of the fans hope it would be as dark as the comic book, because she got raped by I forgot the her enemy on that show. She had
Yeah.
gotten raped,
Yep.
and she was abused, and all of that was going down in the comic book, and then she had this love affair with Luke Cage, but they didn't show none of that in the comic in the Netflix series.
Okay.
So it
Yeah,
wasn't
because
it
I
wasn't
remember
dark.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't dark like the comic. Like it's Netflix, and it's probably not gonna be like that on Disney. So it'll probably be more PG on
Yeah.
for Disney for Disney Plus. But the comic book was much more darker, and they didn't bring none of that to the Netflix show.
So when did that comic book come out exactly?
Jessica Jones.
Yeah, was that like an 80s book or 90s?
I don't even know because I didn't read Jessica Jones. You know what I'm saying? So like when I watched the Netflix show, it was like she was like a new character to me. I'm like I never
Yeah,
met her.
I didn't know who she was either
Right.
until I saw that.
And she had this connect, she had this love affair with Luke Cage, and he ended up being on the show too for a couple episodes. And but from like listening to people like talk about the comics, like the comics was much more darker, and Netflix didn't, it wasn't like that on the TV show at all. So, and it's not gonna be like that on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
got it.
that's more family oriented. I know, even though they saying like the Daredevil show gonna be dark, it's not gonna be as dark as the Netflix. The Netflix show was dark, but the Disney Plus show, I don't think it's gonna be as dark as the Netflix show.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on it,
You know,
which means it'll probably be whack.
facts. Well, hopefully not, because I
Hopefully
mean
not. Yeah,
I
yeah,
I wanted, I really wanted to be good because it's an actual show that I followed over on Netflix, and then they brought it to Disney, and there was a time when they didn't know if they was gonna bring, those Defenders characters back, but they actually brought them back because they want to include them in the Avengers movies.
hmm
So they're not gonna just be like the lower tier, superheroes. They're gonna be actually, alongside Captain America and Iron Man and you know whoever else they got for the Avengers at this point. I don't even know the lineup no more.
yeah. Don't ask me.
They done made Tony Stark's into Victor Vaughn, so and people was pissed off about that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like now they just confusing folks, but
I
whatever.
see what they're doing because it's I mean from their whole thing is he might not be the final boss in the next Avengers movie. Might be a real Victor Vaughn. He's just like Tony Stark's is just like Victor Vaughn in another dimension, another alternate universe.
Right.
So I get what they're doing, and then you bring that hype back for Robert Downey Jr. coming back to the franchise, but as a different character now. So he's not going to be seen as Iron Man. He's going to be a version of Doctor Doom, and maybe at some point in the movie he'll change back to Iron Man. I don't know what their plans are, but that's what I'm getting from it. He's not going to be the real Doctor Doom. It's another Doctor Doom that we haven't seen yet.
Oh,
That's how they're doing it. Because I mean, like in the alternate universe, anything can happen.
and see,
If
that's what I'm talking about right there.
mhm,
All these different. I didn't even know about none of these different universes
yeah,
until like recently. I mean, maybe a few years ago,
mhm,
and I have zero interest in exploring these different universes. It sounds wild to me. You know what I mean?
mhm,
I remember when that what's his name, Miles Morales. I saw
yes.
that movie on
Mhm.
I think it was on Netflix.
I actually bought the story of Miles Morales. I haven't
Yeah,
even opened it yet, but this I got it in Harlem. They had the comic the Black Comic Con that was back in like April or May, and
what?
yeah, and it's like it's a new thing. Like it's not annual. I think it's like maybe the first year that they did it, and they're gonna
Okay,
have it every year. And it's just a celebration of our superheroes and villains,
yeah.
and they have independent black young comic book writers, and they had their their own brands was there, and it was great. So this one I picked up at the Black Comic Con.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Now I was watching that movie and man, I didn't even make it halfway through. I was like, this is too weird.
right.
It's all up in space and I was like, what is this?
Yeah, it's very confusing, and the thing is, like that whole alternate timeline is carrying over to every show and every movie. So no matter what movie you see, if you want to see the next, Avengers film, it's going to carry over in that. The next Spider-Man film, same thing with that. The Ant-Man film, it was like that also. So every, all the TV shows that's on streaming it's like a one big arc that's gonna carry over to everything.
Okay.
So it's like if you miss one, then it's gonna be hard to like kind of follow.
Right.
But I think it was done best with the last Spider-Man film with No Way Home. because they had like they brought back all the Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. So you had three different Spider-Man in the film from three different like decades, and then they had to go up against Sandman and Scarlet Witch. You know, you had Doctor Strange in that movie as well, and so that's basically what it is. It's like an alternate universe. So this is gonna carry over into the next Avengers film where we see Tony Stark's, but he's still Tony, but he's not Iron Man. In that universe, he's Victor Vaughn.
That's
You
wild.
know, it's confusing, but
Yeah.
he supposedly he's not gonna be the real Victor Vaughn that they haven't casted the real Doctor Doom yet. So that's still gonna happen at some point.
Okay.
You know.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
That's
but
all I can say.
but that's what I'm saying. Is like like unless it's something like that, I'm not really too excited anymore for these comic book films. I just feel like it's oversaturated Hollywood, and it's like that's like the next big thing that they jumped on. Like, okay, let's do the Hollywood, let's do the big comic book films. The kids like it. We're gonna cast all the big name stars, Keanu Reeves and Will Smith, and it just become oversaturated now.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
you know. Have you been listening to anything new in hip hop or no?
Man, I finally found an affordable copy of the new LL. So I'm looking forward to listening to that. I've been purposely not
Right,
listening to it. Seemed like everybody was talking about it now, like nobody's talking about it.
right.
Um, from what I'm gathering, it seems to be a big disappointment, but we'll see.
Really, I'm gonna
That's
tell you, I actually like it because I've been saying for years, like LL for me has not dropped anything good since 2000 when he came out with Goat. That to me was like his last solid album, and I've heard all the other crap he came out with since then, and it was bad. Like he still had some big hit singles, from 10 and from James Todd Smith and Definition, but those albums overall was trash. And I think finally, hooking up with Q-Tip, and the thing is, Q-Tip wasn't even his first choice. It was Dr. Dre, and he
yeah.
and he kept saying that he did 30 tracks with Dr. Dre. Where are those 30 tracks at? I would love to hear those, because you mean to tell me you can't come out with a 10-track album with Dr. Dre?
Yeah, that whole thing. I mean, me and a homeboy was talking about that, and we
Mm,
were saying that. Well, I was saying to him that what would have been mind blowing is if he would have made a double album,
right,
one all Q-Tip and the other one all Dre,
right,
or better yet, if he would have dropped two albums at the same time, a Dre album and a Q-Tip album, and that would have been like the
right. I
talk.
went crazy.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
have been crazy.
yeah.
But I'm gonna check this one out, and I hope that it sounds good. Other than that, two things like
Hmm.
I was listening to this podcast today called "What Had Happened Was" with
Okay.
I hope Iron Mike Eagle. Am I saying his name right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and on that in this episode, they were talking about he had Dante Ross on there,
Okay.
and Dante Ross is talking about all these people that he signed. So he was
Right.
talking about, this was the Del the Funky Homo Sapien episode.
Nice.
Anyway, he was talking about how this one incident that happened that out in Oakland or LA, somewhere out there, where they
Hmm.
were all at a club, some grimy club, and then they were like, "Yo, let's bounce, man. It looked crazy up in here." And he said, Dante Ross said him, Tajay, Domino, and one of the other guys. I can't remember him, Tajay. No, it was just those. It was just those three.
Right.
They were standing outside of the club, like in the parking lot. I think he said it was around back, and some dude just like a white van pulled up, and some classic TV scene,
Yeah.
and the door slides open. Some dude gets out, with a gun and tells them, yo, basically it's on.
Wow.
So him and Tajay just took off running, and they just hear these 3 shots, boom, boom, boom.
That's wild.
So I don't know what happens after that, but one of their boys ends up telling them, hey, man, Domino got shot. I
Wow.
think he got shot in the face. So the police come. The police are surrounding Domino. He comes back, or they come back over there, and they said Domino had all of these burn marks, like
Wow.
from the gunshot. That's how,
Yeah.
I guess, close the gun or the bullet or whatever
That's crazy.
was. And he was like completely shook. And then, so the Souls of Mischief album that came out in 2014 that was produced by Adrian Young.
That was that was him and Ali Shaheed was on that.
I think it was just Adrian Young.
Okay, I did hear that one. I remember that one.
Yeah, it was called
This Is Now or something like that. It's called.
I'm sorry.
It's called This Is Now or something like that.
There Is Only Now.
There's Only Now, right? Yeah.
So I bought that when it came out, and I listened to it. It's definitely a concept record, like different than what they ever did.
Right.
But Dante Ross was saying that that album was written based off of what if Domino had died.
Oh wow!
So I'm just listening to this. I'm listening to this today. So now I'm finna pull that back out and like thoroughly listen to it some more, because I didn't know that's what it was about when it came
I
out.
never heard that story. That's crazy.
Yeah, I never heard it either. So I'm about to pull that out.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like 2009, Souls of Mischief came out with Montezuma's Revenge.
Yes.
Which was produced by Prince Paul.
Prince Paul, yeah. And they just came out. They just came out with a re-release for that on vinyl.
Exactly. That's exactly why I brought that up. So I pre-ordered my copy of that from Fat Beats last night. So that's what I'll be listening to. Like those 3 albums, I'm gonna be deeply ingrained in, you know, for a little while.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna tell you, I love the LL album. I think Q-Tip gave him that vintage native tongue flavor.
Really?
And it's different. It's a different album for LL because, like he said in many interviews, that he had to basically learn how to rap again. So he had to, like, his flow is different, but it's still LL. And the production is like having LL over, like, you know, beats from, you know, people's instinctive travels and Low End Theory. And I thought Q-Tip did a phenomenal job. Well, Q-Tip is a legend, so I'm not surprised. You know, I wanted to hear how LL was gonna sound with Q-Tip beats, and I think it was a great mesh. And it's a more grown up LL. He only has one love song on here, which is totally different because he never did that. You know, and I love it. It's already on my list of like best rap albums of the year.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that. Because I wanted it to be
great. I was like, if this album was bad, if you can't do an album with Q-Tip and is totally bad, I was just not gonna listen to him ever again. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because he's been giving us crap for the last 25 years. And I'm like, at some point, he had to like use like good producers. Like he was using the same old producers on those past albums, and I felt like, you know, you never collaborated with, you know, an artist like Q-Tip, who's from your own borough. They from Queens, which is crazy. Like he never did nothing with Tribe, you know, and I think and even with Nas, he never did nothing with Nas. And I you know, it was great to see him and Tip come through, and hopefully we still get to hear those Dre tracks at some point. I don't know, because you know how Dre do, he has like a vault of stuff that'll never be heard. But
Dre's a has-been to me at this point.
He's a has-been to you?
Yeah, I think this would have been the perfect time for them to come out with something that would put him back on people's radar.
Right.
But when you just recording and you ain't putting nothing out and we not getting nothing from you, eventually, like, you know, the candle burns out and nobody cares anymore.
Facts.
I'm at that point where I don't care, you know, one way or another. I mean, LL and Dre sounded fantastic because I love that Zoom record they did
Yes.
back in the day was
Yeah.
incredible. You know what I
Incredible.
mean? So I was really looking forward to that, but now that he went with Q-Tip,
Yeah.
who who cares?
And
It'll be
that and
nice
that
to
that,
hear.
that Zoom track was Snoop Dogg's track. And Snoop has his own version that was unreleased.
Is that right?
Yes, I have it on YouTube. I'll send you the link. Yeah, that was Snoop's record, and for whatever reason, he never released it. So Dre gave the beat to LL.
Wow, I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Yep. It's
Well,
crazy.
LL sound fantastic on that. I used to play that in the clubs.
Yeah.
I used to play that Zoom record in the club.
Yeah. That was fire.
Great
You
song.
know, and I hope this is not the end of for L. I hope he continues to drop new music, and I love the whole resurgence of our legends like Rakim and LL and Common and Pete Rock and Nas, and
Yeah.
it should never be no age limit on music because they don't do this in rock and roll. Rolling Stones could go out on tour and they sell out everywhere. Bon Jovi put out a new album, they selling.
Yeah.
They don't do that in pop music. Madonna could drop an album, she's like 65 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, why do we have an age limit on our artists? That should never happen.
Yeah. I
If
mean,
Run DMC,
for
mhm,
people like me, there's no age limit. They can keep coming out. I'll buy every one. I
right,
buy every single one. Just put it on vinyl, and I'm there. You got at least one
yeah,
sale. You know what
exactly,
I'm saying?
exactly. MC Light come out with a great new album. I love it.
Oh wow, I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, she came out, One of One. That's the name of it, and the production is great. She did collabs with Ghostface and Little Mama, and it's I love it. I think and I haven't heard a light album that I liked in 20 something years. So just to see her back out there, doing her thing is phenomenal.
Right on. Right
You
on.
know, and yeah, so that I've been listening to I'm still listening to Common and Pete Rock. I think that's the best album of the year. You know,
Really?
they mentioned that they got 4 nominations at the BT Hip Hop Awards. I don't know if anybody care about that. But I would love to see them like win all the awards and show the younger generation that yes, the older crowd can still make great hip hop and better than you. You know, and hopefully they would. I hope they would get nominated for a Grammy, like in the major categories, album of the year, because to me it's the best rap album of the year. You know, the Dog Pound, they dropped a new album earlier this year. It's phenomenal. I love it. You know, and it's just great to see our rap legends dropping quality hip hop. It don't got to be classic, but it's quality.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know,
I'm feeling. I didn't know that. I didn't know that Dog Pound or Light had
yeah.
dropped
Yeah,
albums.
yeah, and they're back on Death Row. Like Snoop Dogg has been promoting that album. He actually told Daz to sit this one out on production and let Superfly do it. And so Daz didn't do no production on the album. He's just rapping,
Oh
and that's
wow.
that's something that we've never seen from Daz. So
Yeah.
he's rapping on it. The production is great. It's like more grown up gangster rap, but still Dog Pound flavor from like their previous stuff, like Dog Food and Cali's Active. They got some features on there. Lady of Rage is on there. They got a track from Primo on the last track.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they came out with that as a single. Butch Cassidy is on a couple tracks, so I think it's great. I think it's a great album, and I've been telling people, even I've been on other platforms where they had like a West Coast crowd, and they don't even know. I'm like, how do you all not know about the Dog Pound dropping a new album? But I do, and I'm from New York City, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's those are like the albums I've been bumping. Hit Boy has dropped some stuff. He did something with his dad, Big Hit and Alchemist, and he released a project with the game earlier this year. Um, it's been a lot of music. Blue came out with an album produced by Evidence that was dope. It's a lot of releases. There's some releases I haven't heard yet, but I'm gonna get to them before I make my my year end list. You know,
Yeah. I haven't picked up the Pete Rock Common yet,
that's a great album.
but I've heard nothing but good things about
Yeah.
it, and both of those guys are incredible.
Yeah, I think you would love it. And I've gotten a chance to see both of them in concert. and they were phenomenal live. And again, like it's like Pete Rock. If you love his production, it's vintage Pete Rock with Common. His lyrics are still on point, and I think it was a match made in heaven. And the thing is that the album cover was actually shot in Brooklyn. It was shot around my old way and on over there. There's a theater called King's Theater
Yeah.
in Brooklyn, and it used to be an abandoned theater, and they the city spent money and they renovated it, and they shot the album cover in front of that theater in Brooklyn, which is so dope to me.
Wow.
And they've had a lot of big things there. The Beastie Boys, if you saw their documentary, when they the inside of it, when they were like talking to the live studio audience, that was at King's Theater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was there. It was there that they shot it. I've seen Tony Braxton live and SWV live at King's Theater. They had the Dance Hall Awards was there last year. I think they're going to be there again this year. So they've had a lot of like big things going on at that theater since it got renovated, and it's great to see.
I got a question for you. Like, just the fact that that Common would do a whole album produced by Pete Rock.
Yeah.
Why do you think that we don't see more of that kind of thing? Because personally, I would love to see a KRS-One album completely produced by DJ Premier. That's like my dream album to see.
Right.
And I know people talk about Nas and Premier a lot doing the whole album. But let me take that question even further. This is like, and I just want your opinion on this.
Yeah.
Why do you think at least these classic artists that's been around for a while and that's got a lot of pull, why do you think nobody's ever tried to recreate an Illmatic album? Like, as far as production wise, and I'm not talking about the exact same producers, but like, if I was one of these classic guys, I'd be trying to do an album with a Premier beat, with a Just Blaze beat, you know what I'm saying? Eric Sermon beat, you know what I'm saying? Like just a classic album of these top tier producers.
Right.
And I'm shocked that nobody's ever tried to really imitate that, just to have like a classic album. What do you think about that?
I think Illmatic was such a groundbreaking album, just in the way of how an artist is able to, have like a wish list of producers that he or she want to use for their album, and that wasn't going on before then. Really, it was about you had one producer, whether it was Marley Marl or Teddy Riley, whoever, and I think Nas changed the game by that. You do have, I think it's becoming a thing now more in hip hop where you see like the one MC, one producer collab, because like Pete Rock and Common's not the only one that's done it. Like Freeway did it with Jake One, the stimulus package, and they dropped the second one a couple months ago, which was good as the first one. You had I just mentioned Blue and Evidence. They did an album called Los Angeles together. That was good, and Evidence to me has been slept on as a producer. I'm seeing it a lot more now compared to 20, 25 years ago. And then you have like the newer artists like a Griselda, where they a West Side Gun might have like a Primo track, a Pete Rock track, a track from Static Selector, but for me, I don't think it's classic material. I just feel like they're doing it to appease to the older heads. Like, oh look, I got it. I did a track with Primo. I did a track with Pete Rock. Russ did the same thing when he was dropping that Wolves series, and he had joints from Ninth Wonder and Alchemist. But those are not like producers he normally would work with. You know what I'm saying? That's not really his crowd. His crowd is more for like the pop trap. That's his crowd really. It's not really like the underground, the real hip hop head audience. He don't really have that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm starting to see it more. I think it's good. I mean, I saw the Drink Champs episode with CO Smooth,
Okay.
and I love CL. I just feel like he don't really have an explanation on why he hasn't come out more often with music. I mean, there's a rumor that Large Professor wants to do an album with him.
Uh-huh.
Why aren't you jumping at the chance to work with Extra P? Like he's still hung up on this whole Pete Rock left me to do his solo career and Electra didn't want me and I don't understand that. And he's telling Nori that, oh well, I've matured over the years, but you're still mad about the same thing.
Yeah, I don't understand why CL Smooth didn't go the Rakim route.
Right.
Just like, okay, I'm gonna perform all of our classic songs without you.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at it now. If you hear that Rakim's gonna be performing, you don't even think about Eric B.
Exactly.
He don't even come to mind. I think CL should have did that because people love those songs.
Yes.
You know, and I'm not even talking about Reminisce. I mean, that's great. And it seems like when he does come out and perform, he like hangs the whole show on that song.
Right.
I'm like, no, man, you guys did some
they got
beautiful music together. And you could just come out and be doing these shows to all of your hardcore fans. And after a while, in my opinion, I don't even think you're gonna be thinking about Pete Rock. You ain't gonna need him.
You know? And I mean, I understand from a point where he's coming from. Like, you know, he felt like Electra thought he was expendable. His beef is really with Sylvia Rhone and the record label. It's not really with Pete. But he's looking at it like, well, Pete was my investment. You know, we still had another album to do. How dare he go off and, you know, do stuff with House of Pain and Public Enemy? But he was a producer in high demand, just like, you know, any other producer at that time. And my thing is, if you're a true artist, why is Pete Rock hindering you from coming out with music now? You know what I'm saying? It's like you could work with anybody in the industry right now. There's tons of new producers from this era alone that would want to do an album with him. But he's still caught up on this, you know, Pete left, then I feel like it's still jealousy there. I don't feel like he's gotten past it. And this whole, you know, I'm wiser now, I don't buy it. I feel like he's still jealous of Pete Rock leaving him and going solo when CL could have did the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and they've worked together since then. Like in the 2000s, he was on, I believe he was on Soul Survivor 2 and Pete Tremendos, and they just couldn't. There was still tension there, and Pete has said it time and time again. I've even seen it like a couple of days ago. He was on Instagram and he posted the interview he had with Sway in the Morning, him and Common, and he posted that clip like, yo, like I'm over it already. Like the fans need to get over it. I wish that man nothing but the best, but it's not gonna happen. And I'm content with that. Like like I said, like I've been blessed to see a lot of artists living and dead. And my first concert was seeing Pete Rock and CL Smooth on tour with the Uptown MCA roster, Jodeci and Mary J. Blige and Father MC, Heavy D and the boys was there. You know, rest in peace to Heavy D. I've been blessed for like 30-something years to see these legends. So I'm content with that. Like they gave us 2 classic albums, and that's fine with me. They don't need to work ever again. Like CL, from his point of view, he's like, oh well, I don't need to talk to Pete. He can just send me beats. How is that gonna work out? Because y'all still got to do press. And if this man don't even want to be around you, how are y'all going to promote the album?
Yeah, that's unfortunate, man. I was fortunate enough to be in New York during, I caught one of the Rocksteady anniversary parties.
Oh, nice.
In Central Park, and it was the one where P Rock and CL headlined.
I remember that. I saw that.
So I fortunately I did get to see them perform together, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and that was at the time, if I'm not mistaken, that they were talking about they wanted to like re-record Mecca and the Soul Brother with a live band.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they and then there was talks about a new album, but again, they tried to reconcile and it just didn't work. And Peter's like, he's at this point, he's already moved on. You know, he's done great albums with Sky Zoo and Smoke DZA, you know, Smith and Wesson, and he's done moved on. I think CL, it's time for CL to do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, like supposedly he has a new project coming out with another Peter Guns. You know, so I want to see how this works out.
I heard about somebody just told me about that
Yeah,
today.
I haven't heard nothing from it, so I don't know no single. I haven't heard no songs, nothing. So I don't know when it's coming out.
Wow,
You
incredible.
know, and I liked Lord Tariq and Peter Guns. I have their album, the only
Me
album.
too. Yeah.
You know, that was an underrated album, and a lot of people didn't care for it. I thought it was fire, but
Yeah, that album was great. In fact,
yeah,
that came out around the same time Soul Survivor
right.
came out.
97, I think, 98.
98.
98, right. You know, and yeah, that was when the Deja Vu came out, that was everywhere. That was like one of the biggest rap songs in 98.
Yeah, that's a
You know,
classic today.
right, definitely.
And then their second single was called "We Will Ball,"
Yeah, we were ball, right. They
and
had
I
the
would
Redman
kill
sample on
that
the
in the
chorus.
clubs back then.
Yes,
Dude.
definitely.
That was a dance floor banger right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And for whatever reason, they were on Columbia, and I felt like Columbia didn't promote that album enough. They promoted the song, and that was it. Everybody know the song, but a lot of people they didn't bother to check out the album.
Yeah,
You know, and I remember like listening to Stretch and Bobbito, and they're playing, you know, crosstown Bronx Expressway joint with Fat Joe and Pun was on that, and they playing We Will Ball and Worldwide, and I'm like, yo, this album is fire. I gotta get it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so I loved it. So I want to actually hear Peter Guns rapping and not being on Love and Hip Hop. It's like your time is done on that show.
yeah. Come
Get back
on,
to
man.
rapping.
Cheaters and all that
Yeah, like
nonsense. I'm like,
come on.
oh,
You
really?
know, it was just crazy. It's crazy times for Pete, man. So hopefully this comes out, and you know, then we could finally say like, look, CL Smooth dropped the project without Pete Rock, and you know, he could get back to his career.
Yeah, that American Me album is fantastic.
Yeah, it was good, but that was like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And even when that came out, a lot of people didn't know it was out.
yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't know, man. Yeah, Soul Survivor was great. I loved it. Classic album. You know, definitely. You know, is there any albums that you're waiting to hear before the end of the year?
No,
No.
I can't really say, man. I honest to God, I have so many records and so many releases that I haven't even gotten around to.
Right.
That a lot of these 90s albums that we're talking about, and these
Mm,
artists, like I was heavy in the clubs back then. So I would grab a lot of these albums
mm,
and throw them in the crates, and I would be playing the singles off of those albums,
yeah.
but I didn't a lot of times have a lot of I didn't have a lot of time to like really listen to them thoroughly.
Yeah.
So I'm getting to a lot of that stuff like now. You know what? I heard the main ingredient front
Mm.
to back for the first time about 5 years ago.
What?
And I bought
Wow.
now all of the singles I knew because I'm playing
Right.
them in the club.
Hmm.
But I bought that when it came out. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm
Same.
saying? So, and then as a vinyl DJ, you got to grab this stuff when you can grab them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just buying. I'm putting
Mm.
stuff away, and now I'm finally, getting around to, to listening to some of that stuff because, like,
Right.
my collection is crazy.
Crazy vinyl collection right there.
But other than that, no, it's not like I'm waiting on
Mm.
anything.
Right.
If it was anything that I would have been waiting on, it was this LL album.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I can't think of anything. I heard that Eric Sermon has a whole Craig Mack album. Supposedly,
Really? Oh
that's
shit.
what I heard. I would love to hear that.
Wow. I didn't even know about that.
I don't know how I didn't hear that from Eric Sermon's mouth,
Mhm.
but that was like some talk a while back. So if that happens to be true, I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't think of nothing, man.
I know Redman put out the album cover for Muddy Waters 2, supposedly.
Okay.
And still no release date, no single, we don't no track listings. So I'm just going off of like maybe it's all hype or he's trolling his fans. I don't know because he's been talking about this like forever. You know, at one point I heard it was Ninth Wonder doing beats on there, and then Eric, and I don't know when it's gonna come out. Hopefully, come out this year, like November. It would be nice. December. He usually dropped around the fall time, the September, October, November.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. I would love. It's been a long time that I heard a Redman album too. So I think it's time now. It's time. I know he's put out like singles on YouTube and stuff over the years, but he's been teasing this forever. Like it's time to drop it now. You got all of our legends dropping, great music this year. So why not Redman?
Yeah.
You know, and you got Kendrick at some point. I think Kendrick gonna drop before the end of the year. I really
Yeah.
believe that. I saw a post today saying that wouldn't it be like real petty for him to drop his new album on Drake's birthday? Because supposedly Drake's birthday is October, I think October 29th or something like that. You never know. You never know. He might do that. I'm hearing the album is already done. So if he don't drop this year, then I would say around the Super Bowl weekend, like Usher did this past year. Usher was the halftime performance at the Super Bowl, and he dropped his album the same weekend. So I would expect something like that. But at this point, I don't think Kendrick will lose. I think people are gonna be waiting for that album.
Yeah, I haven't really followed Kendrick since the Black Hippie days,
Right.
and I didn't get into that whole battle. I thought that whole thing was a joke.
Yeah. I mean, it
No
was. I'm like,
disrespect.
Drake is not a battle rapper. Come on.
Yeah, but I even think Kendrick came like I think those songs are horrible. I think all
Really?
of that stuff is
Wow.
horrible. You
Wow.
know, and keep in mind, I come up in the LL and
Yes.
Kumo D era. You know what I'm
Same.
saying? I come
Same.
up in that Nas and Jay
Jay.
Z era,
Yeah.
and like
Same.
real lyrical
Oh
LL and
yeah.
everybody,
Definitely.
versus everybody.
Definitely.
Him and Cannabis was going at it.
Mhm.
Two lyrical beasts.
Right.
That's a battle rap to me.
Oh
Not
yeah.
this what we had here, Kendrick and Drake. That was a joke, man.
Yeah.
In fact,
Mhm.
when KRS went and him and what's that fool's name, Nelly or something, when they was
Nelly.
going back, that was
I
more.
cannot stand Nelly. I've
exciting.
never been a Nelly fan. I've told people this. I'm like, I've never liked Nelly.
Yeah, no, that was a joke for Nelly to even go there, but even
Exactly.
that was more exciting
Oh yeah.
to me than this Drake and Kendrick stuff.
Right.
I mean, if I had Kendrick's talent, it would have been a bloodbath, just like it was with KRS One and Nelly. Like that was a bloodbath. That was
I agree. I don't. I mean, for me, it was one sided. I think Kendrick beat him with every song he came out with, and the Drake fans are gonna be in denial. They're gonna think the Great Canadian Hope won, but I mean, I'm like, Drake is not beating Kendrick at all with anything. Not his albums, not his whatever lyrical ability thing he has.
I think if Kendrick never opened his mouth with any song, he still would have beat Drake. That's how much of a no contest that was.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that was so unevenly balanced. I don't even know what was behind that whole thing. I didn't follow none of that at all. But I was very disappointed in Kendrick's delivery in the song, the track, how he was sounding like a cartoon character. It was all a joke, man. I don't know if you've ever heard on YouTube, there's a video called what is it called? I think it's called Wait for Detox.
Okay.
But it's Kendrick Lamar, and he's like on fire. This was like way back in the Black Hippie days.
Right.
And he's just on fire. Like, go listen to that and then listen to the stuff he's doing now. Like, no comparison.
The voice thing, it seemed like he's been doing that for a while now, though. It wasn't just with Drake. Like, he's been doing that on his other albums. And I don't know if he's trying different flows or whatever. I mean, that reminded me of Eminem. When Eminem was doing those stupid, Pakistani voices on his song. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you sound like you on drugs. And I didn't like when Eminem was doing that.
Not to be making these huge comparisons, but Black Hippie to me was like a gangster version of like Souls of Mischief.
Right.
So they were like some lyrical, like, you know what I'm saying? And to listen to that stuff back then, and then to see Kendrick where he is now, he's like a pop artist. You
Yeah.
know, everybody loves him,
Hmm.
and all of that kind of stuff, and it's just not the same. I
Right.
saw him. I turned on the TV some years back, and he was on Austin City Limits,
Hmm.
and he's doing this like whole artistic performance, like he's, you know, Elton John or you know, like, and I'm like, man, what are you doing?
Right.
It was literally like he could have been anybody doing any type of music. That's the visual that he was putting out there.
Yeah.
It didn't look like rap. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It didn't look like the street art or whatever. You
Right.
know, it just looked like it was like appealing to the masses and
Hmm.
to the pop crowd and all of that kind of stuff. And
Right.
I'm just like, you know, that's when I just kind of slowly was detaching myself, because
Yeah.
I'm like,
I,
this
I
ain't
I
music.
do agree with that because like I noticed that when Damn came out, he had like those pop joints, Humble and the joint with Rihanna and U2, and he's pop. He's a pop artist now.
Yeah,
But I do feel like he can get back to rap when he wants to. You know.
yeah. Give us a little something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, give us a little something. But I ain't, you know, do what you got to do. He's
Right.
making his money.
Yeah.
When you look at, again, when you go back to the Black Hippie days and you see him like that street artist,
Mhm.
and now he's like mega. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I'm not even mad at him. I'm just like not into him like that, like I used to be.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, like I didn't care for the battle. I'm like, this is a battle for the young generation coming up, but they don't know what true battling is until they see
Exactly. There's
Nas
a
and Jay go at it, or Shan and Keras. Those are real
exactly.
battles.
There's a difference between a diss record and a battle record.
Right.
Anybody can diss anybody, but can't. Not everybody can fight
Exactly.
lyrically. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I don't care about diss records. That's all they was really doing.
Yeah.
But like, as far as an actual battle, that's not what that
Yeah.
was.
That it wasn't a battle. You know. And I like Drake. I like his earlier stuff. I don't think he's making the same type of music though. Like we know what Drake is. He's a pop artist. He had the dance songs. He has the songs for the women. We know what he was. That's like we knew what Hammer was back then.
Man, I wouldn't wipe my behind with a Drake record. I wouldn't go near that nonsense. I couldn't tell you a Drake record if you played it for me.
Right.
But I do know he's like that auto tune crap and sounds horrific. I don't like none of that stuff.
Right. I feel you, bro. I feel you. Yeah, I spend I want to say since maybe nothing was the same to actually liked a Drake record. I haven't liked none of his other stuff, and people get caught up in the streams and how much it is sold. I'm like, that don't mean shit.
Yeah.
There's gold albums that work better than multi-platinum albums in rap.
Yo, I was in the clubs when Master P was killing the whole game.
Oh yeah.
Him and his crew, and I'm not into his music, but I was
Yeah.
playing his music in the clubs,
Mhm.
and I know how much music his crew was putting out there, and they was making crazy money.
Oh yeah.
So don't hit me with sales and all of that stuff
Exactly.
and say because of that it's good
Right.
or whatever. But you gotta love his hustle or whatever.
Definitely.
I don't mean to sound like aggressive. I'm not trying to put
No.
anybody
You good?
down, but I am very, very biased when it comes to music because I love music,
Right.
but I especially love rap music.
Same.
You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't there for the birth of rap, but I was there all along its infancy stages.
Right.
You know what I'm
Same.
saying? So, you know, when Flash and the Furious and Curtis Blow and Sugar Hill Gang, when they hit the airwaves, I was there.
Yes.
So you know what I'm saying? So to see this thing grow up into a grown adult, and then you got to see people like Drake or the mumble the mumble
That crap.
rappers or what, or these chicks that just selling sex instead
Yeah,
of selling talent. You know,
yeah,
I don't have a problem, saying how I really feel about
yeah.
it.
I definitely understand that because I feel the same way about them. So, you know, that's why we we have to celebrate our legends when they come out with new music, like a LL Cool J or Common and Pete Rock. Because without them, we'd be stuck with Drake and Sexy Red. And who wants to listen to them all day?
Exactly.
You know, I can't cover them at all. Not for no money. I don't care if you pay me. I will not cover a Drake and Sexy Red album. I'm good.
I think that should be a whole nother genre of
Real.
music. Don't put that in with rap.
Right. That's
That's not
another thing.
rap.
They were talking about making a genre for the rap legends, like the older heads. I'm like, we don't need a genre.
Nah.
Rap is our genre.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we
Just
don't
leave it
we
like
don't
it
need a
is.
genre for the older heads. What would they call it? Like what, grown rap? You
Adult
know what I'm saying? Like
contemporary.
that's the most stupidest thing I've heard. Like they don't need their own genre. Like the genre they in is the genre.
Yeah.
You know, and it's bad enough that you have different artists that they want to label. Oh, this one is backpack rap. This one is trap. This one is mumble rap, and it's just
I
crazy.
I think that we as black people, we gotta stop, absolutely stop inviting people to the barbecue.
Yeah,
Stop inviting them over and just put a stop to it and not acknowledge when any outsider tries to come in and dictate anything, we
mhm.
have to not acknowledge it whatsoever.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
And we need to stop now before we completely lose it altogether. You feel me?
Yeah, I agree. Like that. That's why I do what I do on here because I love rap. Hip hop raised me, and it was never about being internet famous or about money. It's about teaching this youth and generations coming up about their culture, about their history. Because without it, they would sit up there and make a whole Mount Rushmore list and put Jack Harlow over Black Thought. You know what I'm
You
saying? You
get
know
what
how
I'm
crazy
saying?
and ignorant that is? I'm like, I'm not gonna have that. That's not happening.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Let me ask you something, or
Yeah.
or ask me who my Mount Rushmore of rap would be. Go ahead, ask me.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore?
I wouldn't insult any rapper by comparing them to four white racist devils that have been carved out of some rock. That's my top four. One thing's got nothing to do with the next.
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah.
So that's how much I love this music. I wouldn't subject people, this art form that I love, to something that I hate.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
So if that gives you any idea.
Oh yeah. I agree. I agree.
And
And
I'm
it's
just
just
being honest.
I don't social media is like a nest to have people like that. They want to debate with you over your favorites or this. I don't think Black Thought should be in top 5 or whatever. And I'm like, you just was born yesterday. What do you know about Black Thought?
Exactly.
What can you tell me at 19 years old about Black Thought that I already don't know? And I've seen him live twice. You know
I've
what I'm
seen
saying?
Black Thought like 10 times at
Yeah.
least.
I don't get into debates with the younger generation. I'm like, I'm here to teach you all about the
Yeah.
genre, not to debate with you all about the genre.
And you can like who you like,
Right.
just don't diss who you don't like.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
know, I remember I've seen like a lot of the younger collectors that buy vinyl and they follow us. I've seen the younger heads buy Run DMC vinyl and not like it, but they buy it because the person they follow is like from the older generation and they love their collection. I'm like,
Yeah.
so why are you buying it if you don't like it?
There's a trend where these new cats are buying vinyl of these newer artists
Mm-hmm.
and they don't even own turntables. They just
Crazy,
buy it and they hang it on their wall
right?
like as decorations.
Yeah, I've
It's
seen that.
it's the weirdest thing, man.
I can't do that. Like for me, if I buy something, I have to use it. If I buy a piece of vinyl, I'm playing it. I'm not just buying it just to have it in the collection or to show off on social media. I just think that's whack.
Exactly.
And you know, before social media, nobody was doing stuff like that.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
You know,
So
so like yeah, we collectors, but we're collectors that use stuff in our collection. We don't just have it as, you know, sitting on top of a mantelpiece for, you know, collecting dust.
exactly.
You know what I mean? So I just think that's whack, and that just things that I noticed on social media over the years. You know,
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah. But this has been a great live. You know, thank you for joining. I would love to like do this like maybe weekly or monthly, where we just come on and discuss different comics or hip hop or whatever. You know.
Yeah, let's definitely do this.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, we can dive deeper, definitely into comic books. Maybe show
Definitely.
off some stuff.
Yes.
And of course, there's always going to be lots of rap to talk about.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm
for sure.
down with that too.
That's why I named it comics and hip hop. 'Cause I knew we was gonna talk about hip hop at some point. So
No doubt.
you know what I mean. Thank you for joining, and let people know where they can follow you at on social media.
All right. I would say just hit me up on my YouTube channel, simply titled Daryl D. It's a lot of vinyl talk on there, a
Yes.
lot of mixtape talk on there, and a lot of comic book talk on there. So, and then I got a lot of like footage of like rap and DJs
Nice.
from the 80s all the way up until now. Old rap television performances from back in
So
the day. I post that stuff. And then the stuff that I'm getting around to posting is crazy. I got some crazy stuff coming. So
nice.
you definitely, if you're into that sort of thing,
Oh yeah.
definitely check me out there. And then all things Daryl D on IG, you know, and I kind of do a little bit of everything on there, show off some stuff,
Yeah.
talk about some stuff, and I sell a lot of uh, music memorabilia and
Mhm.
collectibles. And
And you got the rap tees. I like the rap tee collection you got on here.
yeah, right now I'm doing all month, every day. I'm showing a different rap T-shirt from my collection
Mhm.
that I've gotten from all over the place, and I'm having fun with that. And I'm not gonna. I was just thinking last night, like if I was to just show not just rap but just music T-shirts in general,
Right.
I could probably show a different tee every day of the year.
Oh yeah.
I've got some
Yeah.
crazy stuff, but I'm having fun showing off some of my rap T-shirts. So
Yeah.
check me out on IG, all things Daryl D, and you can see some of that stuff on there.
Nice. Yeah, man. And like I said, once again, it was great having you on here. And this won't be the last time you'll be on here. You know, shout out to Nostalgic and the whole Hip Hop Jedi's. And hopefully we'll do stuff on IG Live with them again.
No doubt.
You know, I know he hit me up on Tuesday to do an R&B live, but we never got around to doing it. So I don't know
Okay.
when you're gonna do that, but you know, we got some other stuff coming. So
Yeah,
that'll be
I
dope.
definitely have fun on his show,
Yeah,
and thank you for having me, man.
no doubt, man.
Spread love.
I appreciate it, and that's what it's about. Just bringing people of the culture, and making people aware of what what you got going on, and just talking about great hip hop.
No doubt.
Yeah. So thanks again, and yeah, I got some Halloween horror reviews coming up this month. Later this month, I'm gonna drop one next week, and then me and Mike is gonna do Bram Stoker's Dracula at the end of the month for Halloween. So stay tuned for that. Likes, comment, subscribe, share. Anybody that loves comics, tell me what's your favorite comic book all time, and y'all will see us next week. Peace.
That's what's up.